Selamat pagi kawan-kawan Indonesia. Hari ini saya akan mengunjungi Aunty Coffee di mana saya akan bertemu dengan kawan Curtis dan Paul. Curtis akan membawakan presentasi tentang kopi dari Costa Rica.
So those three are from Costa Rica we have. So we've got everything numbered. Always spaces with 1, 2, 3. Yeah, cool. So these three at the back here are the Costa Rica. They're the Hacienda Sonora. So that is the name of the coffee farm where these coffees are grown. And these are all of the same varietal as well. So these coffees, essentially what we want to showcase with our upcoming coffees on the menu. Hey guys, are you joining us for the cupping this morning? Yeah, cool. We're literally just starting, so you haven't missed anything. Actually, before we start as well, how many people, first time cupping, hold up your hands. Awesome. That's really good. That was like the complete opposite. Last week we had like 2 people who were new. Everyone else has done it before, so this is really good. That's really exciting. Welcome guys. So I was just taking everyone through, we're just going through the coffees which we're going to be cupping today. So I was just saying that we're tasting the coffees we have coming up next week for our showcase. So every Wednesday, every 2 weeks, we change over our coffees on the brew bar here at Aunty. So it gives customers an opportunity to kind of go through and taste a number of different coffees. Hey Paul, I might leave it up here. Yeah. But yeah, so with this particular showcase, what we're going to be looking at is honey process. So how many people here are familiar with honey process? Hands up. How about wash process? Hands up.
Yep.
And natural process? Awesome. No, that's great. So processing is something which happens to the coffee beans after they have been picked off of the tree, and it's in between them being shipped overseas to us. So processing is a big part of the flavors that we can expect from our coffees when we're tasting them. So one of the most common styles of processing is a wash process. So essentially, so we'll go all the way back to the start. So coffee is a fruit that's grown on a coffee tree. And we're very lucky we have a coffee tree here with us today. So with that coffee fruit, they're called coffee cherries. They're grown on the trees and they're hand-picked generally in the best environments. When they're hand-picked, it means that we can pick those coffee cherries off of the tree when they're as ripe as possible. After those cherries have been picked, they've got 2 seeds inside them, and those seeds are coffee beans. So coffee beans are just the seeds of that cherry. There are 2 that's inside there. They sit against each other just like that, and then wrapped around the outside of those we have the flesh of the coffee cherry, and then the skin of the coffee cherry as well. So as you can imagine with any fruit, fruit has a lot of sugars in it and a lot of sweetness. And so that's where we get a lot of our flavors coming through from coffee. A lot of people, they think about tasting coffee and they think, you know, a lot of very bitter, strong aspects, especially when they're drinking black coffee. And so that's one of the things we like to sort of break that idea for people in here, where coffee can taste sweet, can taste fruity, and you can get a whole range of different flavors coming through from coffees that you drink around the world. So with those coffee cherries, that flesh that clings to the coffee fruit is very sticky flesh. It really clings onto the seeds, so it's very difficult to get it off. So there are a number of different methods that are used around the world to actually remove that flesh from the coffee bean so that we can get it, and then we can dry it out and then roast it and have it ready for us to taste it. So with that fruit, as we were just talking about, the wash process, what they do is they pick the cherries off of the tree and then run them through a pulping machine. So a pulping machine is like a big wheel and it kind of squeezes the coffee beans on the sides and it squeezes the fruit out, the seeds out from inside of that coffee cherry. So the skin is left behind, and then we've got the coffee beans and they have the flesh of that coffee cherry pushed into the outside. So after that, they will dump all of those coffee beans with the flesh on the outside into a big pool and leave them there to ferment. That fermentation process starts to soften off that flesh on the outside so that it makes it easier to come off. So after about 48 hours of leaving that to ferment, they will then wash that with clean water, which is where the name wash comes from. And that will wash all of the flesh off, and then they'll take those coffee beans and then leave them out to dry, and then bring them down to a certain washing content for shipping, essentially. So that's our wash style. On the other end of the spectrum, we have a natural process style. So naturals are where we pick the coffee cherries off of the tree, and we just leave them out to dry with the skin and the flesh still on the outside. Natural process is very popular when people are tasting coffees. They're quite distinct in terms of flavor and aroma because you get a lot of the sweetness and a lot of the sugars get infused into that coffee fruit. So it's a very, very tasty coffee. One of the sort of negatives of that is you can imagine if we're picking all of those cherries off of the tree and leaving them out to dry, it's a little bit hard to maintain that consistency in how they're drying. So the ones on top will dry faster than the ones on the bottom. And so that's where there's a lot of work involved in making sure that they're moved around and so that they're drying evenly throughout those days. The other thing as well is if we have some coffee cherries that are picked and they're underripe, then they're being mixed in with the ripe cherries too. So when they start to dry out, they all kind of start to look the same. So it's very difficult to differentiate between each of those individual ones. So from a quality control point of view, it's not as great, but you can get some really great natural process coffees that have been sorted as well. And again, they'll have some really delicious flavors. So taking us back to the honey process market. Honey process is in between those two. So washed and natural are kind of the most common processes that a lot of people hear about. Honey process is where they pick the cherries, they'll pulp them, and then they'll leave them out to dry straight away with the skin off, but certain amounts of the flesh still on. So with that processing style, you get a little bit of a mix of both. So you get some of the fermenting flavors of a washed coffee. Fermenting, I say that in terms of you get a bit of acidity coming through. Acidity is really good in coffee because it adds complexity to it. So when you can imagine if you drink something that is sweet, it's just going to taste sweet, it'll be very one-dimensional. If you drink something that is acidic, something that is bitter, it's just going to taste bitter. If we drink something that is sweet, acidic, and bitter, there's more complexity, there's more playing out for our palate, and it makes them more interesting. So honey process, it's a mix between the two. We get those fermenting flavors because there's still flesh on the cherry and it's fermenting as it's drying. So we also get the natural flavors as well because there's that flesh and the sugars from that flesh is being infused into the coffee as well. So today, with our upcoming showcase, 1, 2, and 3, we have 3 different styles of honey process. We have a yellow honey process, a red honey process, and a black honey process. So these are kind of a subset of the honey processing method, and they refer to how much of that flesh is actually left on the coffee cherry when it's dried out. So as you can imagine, the more flesh that we have on that, the more it's going to veer towards a natural process coffee, so the more fruit flavors we get coming through, and then the less flesh, and then the less flesh that we have on that, the less of that will get coming through the more acidity and that sort of wash style. So what's really interesting is that because this is all the same coffee from the same farm, it means that we really get to explore exactly how those differences in that process will make the taste. Because all of the other constants remain, it's just the only variable is that processing method. Also to mix up the table a little bit, we've got some other coffees on here. So we have our Colombia Wush Wush coming back on. So that is available on our top shelf offering over here. For those of you guys who tried the Wush Wush the other week, it's very delicious coffee. This one's a natural processed coffee as well, so it'll be quite interesting when you guys smell and taste the coffees on the table. You'll be able to notice the difference between that one compared to the other ones, which are honey processed, just in terms of the sweet aromas that you'll have coming off the coffee. We also have a Ethiopia Kochiri natural process as well. So again, another quite fruit-driven coffee, which they're usually favourites when people are tasting them side by side on the table. And we also have our Kenyan Yatsuri, which is one of our offerings at the moment with our current Kenyan showcase. And that one is a wash process coffee, so just to mix it up a little bit more so we can have some different processing methods on the table. So what we'll do, guys, I'm going to get in here, I'm going to start grinding through some coffee beans, and then we'll get around and we can have a little smell of the coffees on the table. And I'll take you guys through how to do coffee as well, so don't worry about that just yet. Cool. Yeah, actually, that would be awesome. Yeah. So it's really good to go around and when we're smelling the coffee grinds, so these are all freshly ground. Grinding our coffee fresh is always really important because it releases the aromas and the flavour from the coffee. You can imagine as well, when we grind up the coffee, we're cutting the coffee beans into tiny little particles. So there's more surface area for oxygen to start to oxidize that coffee. So it will start to lose its freshness even faster. Same thing, just like when you smell mint and you pick a mint leaf and you hit it with your hand and it releases those aromas. Same thing's happening here when we grind up our coffee. So we can smell everything inside the cup. It's always really interesting smelling the ground coffee, and you kind of get an impression of how you think that it might taste, and then afterwards when you're thinking different coffee beans. So within those two types of coffee, we also have different varietals as well. So just like within red wine, there's Merlot, Shiraz, Cab Sauv, all of which have very distinct flavors. Same thing with coffee as well. We have a number of different varietals. Varietals are generally typical to certain countries. They'll have typical varietals, or even certain regions. So you can get a lot of those flavor profiles can come through from certain varietals with distinct in different areas. With this one down here, number 16 in particular, this is our Gatariri, which is a Kenyan coffee which we're running at the moment. That one is made up of two different varietals. There's an SL28 and a Ryu. Actually, I'll just double check because I don't want to get that wrong. So it's got two different varietals in it. It's an SL28 and a Ryu 11. They're not very, or SL28 in particular is a very scientific name, but the Ryu 11 in particular is a coffee that was produced in a laboratory in Kenya, and it was made to fight some diseases which are really affecting coffee plants around the world. So there's a disease called leaf rust, which seriously affected coffee plants in Brazil and Guatemala, around Central America recently. So in laboratories in Kenya, they actually produced a varietal Ryu 11, which is resistant to leaf rust. So leaf rust is a spore which floats, it's airborne, it floats on the wind, and it will land on the leaves of the coffee plant, and it will start to spread across those leaves. As it spreads, it covers those leaves, and it stops the plant from performing photosynthesis. So essentially, the plant dies. So a lot of farmers over in these countries, they had to pretty much uproot their coffee plants that had been, that had been producing coffee off them for years, because the plants were just essentially spreading that leaf rust even further. So yeah, it's quite cool sort of the innovation that's happening in terms of how people are reacting to a lot of those diseases, and kind of what we can do genetic engineering and plant breeding as well to produce new varietals as well. Did everyone have some favorites on the table here? So we'll start at the top. Number 11, hands up. Number 12. Number 13. Number 14. Number 15 and number 16. Yeah, cool. So number 15 in particular, it's a very distinct smell. As I was saying before, it's a natural process. So you get all of those sugars infused into the coffee bean. With this one in particular, it's from Ethiopia as well. So Ethiopia is known for having quite fruit-driven, very floral, sweet coffees. In Ethiopia, there's a lot of heirloom varietals, they're called. So coffee just grows wild out in the bushes there in Ethiopia. I heard a story about some farmers who literally, they don't own farms, they just walk into the forest and they'll pick coffee cherries when they come into season and bring them back and process them. So there's no one knows what the exact varietals are in this, but with the coffee just growing naturally out in the wilderness, it's growing in the best possible environment that it can, so it's producing very delicious coffee. And that's where you can kind of notice that difference on the table there. So what I'm going to do, guys, is go around. I'm going to start topping up these with hot water. What we're going to do is add in the hot water to these cups, and it's going to start brewing that coffee inside there. So cupping is something that's done a lot out at origin when coffee is being sold. It's done to determine the price of the coffee. So people with a Q grader's license, it's called, they have essentially passed a number of tests which are based on smell and taste. And so it's the tests are all around getting people around the world in line so that they can all be tasting the same things, and then they can kind of assess coffees from different parts of the world in line with one another. What they'll do is they'll taste coffees that come in from that harvest season, and they will, based on how good that coffee tastes, they will determine the price for that coffee. So yeah, it's a big process. But then also on the other end as well, for us, when we get coffees coming in, we will also taste the coffees in here when they arrive. And also every morning from Monday to Friday, the coffee roasters actually get together and they cup all of our coffees themselves too. So it's all about making sure that we're getting that consistency coming through from our coffee. That way they know week to week that if there's anything that's going wrong, or one day if the coffee doesn't taste quite right, they can go back and they can have a look at the roasting process. So we've got data around all of our coffee roasts, or they can have a look at the green beans as well and see if there's something going wrong along that chain. But yeah, with cupping, so we're going to fill these up with water, and the coffee in there is going to start extracting, start steeping with that water. What we'll find is that a lot of the solids here will start to sink to the bottom, and then we'll have some little bits floating on top as well. So we're going to leave the coffee to brew for 4 minutes, and then what we're going to go through and do is break the crust on the coffee, it's called. So essentially with that bit on top, we go through with our spoon and we want to dip the spoon in and then push it, and it will open up the coffee and release a nice aroma from the coffee, so we can kind of get that first smell. So we'll go through, after the coffees are finished brewing, we'll go through and we can all have a little smell of the aroma of the cups, and then after that we'll use the spoons and scoop off just that little layer of stuff on top of the coffee, get rid of that, and then we'll just let it cool down a little bit more and get into some coffee tasting. So with our spoons, just then we'll take you guys through cupping etiquette. Spoons always rinsed before and after they're placed into the cups. So from a hygiene point of view, and also so we're not getting any mixes between all of the different coffees, so we can make sure that it's all tasting the way it should. So essentially what we want to do, dip our spoon, and then when there's the water inside there, we're going to dip the spoon in, we get a little bit of liquid on the spoon, then we want to bring that up to our mouths and slurp it in. So you want to suck it in as hard as possible so it spreads it across your palate and across your tongue. What that does is you can taste all of the flavors inside the coffee. It's always a little bit funny on coffee tables. It's kind of a competition on who can slurp the loudest, so it's not possible to be self-conscious about how loud you're slurping. The only thing to watch out for is sometimes people, it goes down the wrong side of your throat and you end up coughing and you look like an idiot. So don't do that, but yeah, just watch out, don't trick yourselves. But yeah, so we want to do that, taste the coffee, and then dip your spoon in again to wash that spoon before going on to the next one. We also have 2 cups for each of these coffees on here, so that's something that's typically done out of origin as well. It's done to determine if there are any if there are any differences between those 2 cups, because that will give us a good idea of the quality of that coffee. You can imagine if one tastes really good, but then the other one doesn't taste as good, it could be a sign that this one just got lucky and had a number of good beans in there, and that there were some coffee beans with defects in the other cup. So that way you can kind of get a good idea of the quality of the coffee. So yeah, feel free to taste them both side by side. Last thing, as you go around the table, you'll start to notice that over time, as the coffee cools down, it will change in flavor a little bit too. So when it's a bit hotter, we get more strength and more body coming through from the coffee. And as it starts to cool down, it opens up a little bit. So you'll get more sweetness and more acidity coming through from the cup as well. Something I always encourage people when they're drinking coffee at the bar here to think about. So when they get a filter coffee, it's like at the start you can drink it, and then as it starts to cool down, you can really notice little flavors open up and it starts to achieve a little bit more balance in the cup as well. But yeah, we'll get started. So I'll start on this side, so we'll be able to taste these ones a little bit earlier, and then we'll work around the table. Let's give a timer. Yeah, I think I might. Would you actually get like just pull it off, I think? Stopwatch. Do we have any questions, guys? All good? All good. Thanks, man. You got time already? Yeah, time aside. Yeah, feel free to. Yeah, get into it. So, have all of you guys, has anyone not been down here to Aunty Peg's before as well? Yeah, cool. So we're the coffee roastery for Proud Mary Coffee down here. So we have our cafe just up around the corner, but in the brew bar here afterwards, for anyone wanting to grab a coffee, we just serve black coffee in here. So we just do filter and espresso, and what we do is we have different showcases that come on every 2 weeks. So it gives people an opportunity to kind of taste them. So what we want to do, dip our spoon in the water. Yeah, thank you. And we want to press that spoon down just halfway, and then push the coffee back. Dip our spoon to clean it afterwards, and that way we're smelling the aromas that come forth from the coffee as well. So we can do that a couple of times as well at somebody. So everyone, if you'd like to get in, feel free to break the crust. Yeah, this is much. I was saying before, we had like 25 people here last week, and everyone was like cramming to get in. So this is a little bit more. I can get more spit cups as well if anyone needs.
suasana coffee cupping sekarang pada tahap penghirupan smell. Mencari bagaimana aroma daripada kopi di sini.
Mix of crema and then little coffee grinders to sit on top of the coffee. I'm going to get rid of those when I'm tasting those. So what we're also doing is waiting for the coffee to cool down a little bit before we taste it. So we used 96-degree water here, so just off the boiling. So you can imagine if we were to go and taste that straight away, we would burn our tongues and we wouldn't get to taste anything afterwards. Which is, yeah, not good. So we'll wait for it to cool down a little before we did it. Don't stress as well about getting the table dirty. So we I'll taste the coffee, dip the spirit, and hopefully get the table on the tap just to get the water off of it. So yeah, table seats and stuff.
Ya, itu berikut adalah proses steaming tadi, ambil crushnya untuk persiapan cupping.
My personal horror story, I was working somewhere and the guy was using a normal cup as a spit cup and he left it at the end of the line. And I went along and tasted everything and then tasted the last one and I went, spit cup? And he was like, yes. And I cupped the spit cup. So we don't have to do that today. But yeah, that's pretty much saying that you literally can't do anything wrong here today. So what we want to do is dip in so you can get as much or as little coffee as possible. I usually just hold it over the cup as well so I don't spill it. And then dip our spoon afterwards, quickly tap on the table and move on to the next one. So yeah, get in guys, have a taste.
Begini adalah suasana cupping di Aunty.
Okay, so what we're going to do, I've done this before, but can everyone go and stand like in the corner of the coffee that they like the most? Let's see how this fire up is. Yeah. Just take some. Yeah.
Number 13.
Number 13 is the grinding process. Yeah. Probably my favorite so far.
Do you have it on the...
That will be coming on next Wednesday. It's part of our next Wednesday. Yeah, the most crystallized. So you guys big fans of the honey? Or is everyone just trying to taste it?
It is good for espresso.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. So with our showcases, when we have those ones coming up next Wednesday, so you can try that as an espresso or as a filter. So you can imagine this style here is more of a filter style beverage. But when you're tasting something as espresso, it's really interesting how you get, again, very different flavors coming through with a little bit more pressure coming through and with that addition of the crema on the table too. Alright, so I'm going to do hands up again for everyone. So, favourite coffees on the table, number 11, number 12, number 13, number 14, number 15, and number 16, It's always nice when we've got a little mix as well. So yeah, it's really great being able to taste coffee side by side. It's all about developing a palate, developing the labels that we have for different coffees. Part of this as well, so being able to understand the different processing methods and the different origins before tasting everything gives you a good idea of exactly where those different flavors are coming from. So the people on this side of the table here throwing that on natural process or fruit flavors or sweet. I actually didn't taste any of the ones on the table because I usually leave it for everybody else to get in. But I imagine that these ones, like the honey process, we got through those yesterday. And yeah, it's just really cool at tasting how different they actually can be. It's all the same varietal grown on the same farm, but just that simple processing method, which literally is just the amount of flesh left on that coffee cherry, it completely changed the flavor. For anyone still going around the table, feel free to have a look at it, or yeah, to So this is our green bean storage room. In here, you can see these are the green coffee beans. So this is what they look like before they are roasted. So all of these coffees here are prepped and ready to be roasted for tomorrow morning, I believe it is. So the roasters come in, they get everything ready so that they usually come in first thing in the morning, and then it's all ready to go to get started on the roasters. But with these green coffee beans, so you can see how different they look from the coffee beans that we had through next door. So these again are the seeds of the cherry, and they're much smaller when they're still in their green form as well. So essentially what these are is they're very dense. A lot of people ask what they taste like, but they're pretty much like hard as rocks, so they're very, you can't really find it, so they eat them or anything. But yeah, during the roasting process, what's happening is the coffee is expanding. We are developing the sugars in it. It's going through a browning process, and so it's changing in color, changing in shape, and changing in flavor as well. Inside here, as I was saying before too, I think who was the person who asked about the coffee changing? Was that you? Yeah, changing in flavor. So with our coffee, we get everything delivered in a grain pro bag. So these are wrapped up inside here. They're usually cable tied and twisted around and sealed to keep in as much of the moisture content as possible. So at the end of the day, coffee is just a food product. So just like with any food product, the fresher it is, the better it's going to taste. We had some, I heard stories about coffee that someone cupped at origin, tasted really good. They paid a certain price for it, and then it was shipped overseas, and by the time it arrived, it tasted really terrible. There were a couple of different situations of that as well, where one was the coffee wasn't grain prone. So during that shipping process, it can take anywhere from sort of 1 to 2 months for that coffee to actually, everything comes in via ship, so they're all loaded up in shipping containers. So you can imagine during that long shipping process, the flavors are going to start to change. One of the other things I think in that particular instance happened, the coffee was being tasted at a very high altitude, and it was affecting the flavors that were coming through from the coffee. I don't know the exact science behind why that was happening, but it was a very rare situation.
What's the reason putting a green bean into the bins now instead of leaving it in the bag?
So these are just loaded up and ready to be, ready to be roasted. So yeah, these ones are all prepped, more just from the ease point of view for the roasters and everything. So inside here as well, we keep everything insulated. We've got the doors at the front here. There's insulation along the walls, so you can probably feel that sort of shift in temperature when you came in here as well. Which again is all about keeping everything as fresh as possible.
Does it capture the same temperature, or?
So it's more just maintained. So Melbourne's pretty good too because we've got a fairly cool, low climate. So oxidization is occurring at a slower temperature. I'm from Brisbane, so I just moved down 4 months ago. I worked with a coffee roastery up there, and we had to really monitor our aging process after roasting the coffee because at warmer climates, the coffee actually starts to oxidize faster. So for rule of thumb is generally every 10 degrees hotter that it gets, your chemical reactions are occurring about twice as fast. And so yeah, there's a higher chance of that coffee going stale essentially, or at a faster rate. But yeah, so in here we can maintain everything. We've just got our new hoppers as well, so these are all loaded up with the coffee, so it just makes it easier from a storage point of view for keeping everything in there and then getting it ready for the roaster. In the shop here as well, we roast about 2,000 kilos of coffee every week. So it's a fair bit of coffee that we go through, and so that way, again, all of this stuff will probably be gone by the end of this week coming. We'll have our fresh stock coming in and arriving. So yeah, it's a lot of coffee that we go through. Did you guys have any questions about the green beans? Yes.
How's the decaf? So is the decaffeination, is that like a type of the coffee plant, or is it processed to be decaf?
So there's a few different methods. This one, I actually just learned the other day that we have one of like the newer methods of decaf, but I think the first style of decaf that was done, it's like a chemical treatment that they do with the coffee. So it's not very nice at all. It really affects the flavor, but I don't know the science behind that, but through some chemical treatment, they take the caffeine out of the coffee. The more natural process that people started doing after that was the Swiss water method. A lot of people get confused and think that it's actually done like with Swiss water. It's the Swiss, it's their water method. What they do is they take the green beans, so there'll be regular caffeinated green beans, and they'll soak them in water. Soaking, and then they'll start to pull out the caffeine from the coffee beans. Then they'll take the beans out and then run that water through a charcoal paper. And so that filter captures the caffeine and then lets through everything else. Then afterwards, they put the coffee beans back into that water. They reabsorb some of their flavor. But that's why sometimes these ones have quite like a different color to the other coffee beans as well. And so they start to absorb, they just end up looking a little bit different. But yeah, that way it takes out like 99% or something of the caffeine from the coffee. And then afterwards you're left with the green beans minus the caffeine essentially. But one of the newer methods, which I just learned about the other day, there's actually what was it? It was like an enzyme or something in sugar, which is used, and it's like some kind of fermentation, which is similar to brewing beer, but it attaches itself to the caffeine and then like removes it from the coffee. So I don't know enough about that to kind of talk on it, but that is the actual style of decaf that we use. So it's even more natural process where they're not having to do as much with the coffee, but it still takes out as much of that caffeine as possible. So but so I'm actually starting, I'm thinking about doing a like kind of little question time as well. So a lot of questions I can't answer. If you guys come back next week, then I'll sort of have them ready, or just next time you come in, I'll look them up and figure that out for you too. But yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, if you guys want to follow me through here, we'll have a look at the coffee roasters as well again. These are our coffee roasting machines. So these two are throwback coffee machines. I believe this one was built back in the 50s or 60s. So a lot of them are very old machines. They're all German, made in Germany originally. But yeah, with those coffee roasters, they just keep running essentially. It was back in the day when they built things to actually last. But so many people so these have been refurbished, we've added new burners and everything onto them. But yeah, a lot of older coffee roasters can actually be remade. I went to a coffee roastery recently. They had a Probat from the 1930s that was still being used today, so it's pretty cool. But with these, essentially, the reason we use, the reason a lot of coffee roasters prefer the Probat coffee roasters is because they are made out of big cast iron steel drums. Cast iron drums. So that cast iron holds the heat really well. So when we're cooking the coffee beans inside here, we've got an element underneath which is heating up the drum, and that drum is rotating inside the coffee roaster. As it rotates, it will move those coffee beans around so they can get even heat. But we're cooking the coffee through convective heat and conductive heat. So the conductive heat is every time those beans hit the walls inside the roaster, they're being sort of flash bright on the outside a little bit. And then the convective heat is the actual heat of the air inside there, so that's heating up those coffee beans as well. What we're trying to achieve when we're roasting is we don't want to overcook the outside of the coffee bean, because then we can invariably undercook the inside, but we also don't want to dry out the coffee too much as well. So it's trying to strike a balance between those two things. We're developing the sugars inside the coffee, and also there are a number of chemical reactions actually occurring inside the beans, which are creating new flavor aroma compounds as well. But yeah, we'll roast these inside here. The average roast can go anywhere from 10 minutes up until sort of 16, 17 minutes or so. So yeah, it's a lot faster than a lot of people think. This one here is a 15 kilo roaster, and this one, or maybe vice versa. No, yeah, 15, and this one is a 22 kilo roaster. So we can put in that weight of coffee beans, and afterwards we usually get out, and this one it can be anywhere from sort of 12 to 13 kilos, because we're losing a lot of moisture during the roasting process as well. After the beans are finished, we open up the door, the beans fall out, and this is a fan which blows cool air up into the coffee and also rotates the beans. So So you can imagine we want to cool down the coffee as quickly as possible after it's been roasted, so that they don't continue to cook from the heat that's contained inside. And we also have a little sample roaster. So this is our 1 kilo roaster over here, and then on the other side we have a little 200-gram roaster as well, which we use for all our sample roasts. So that way we can, when we get new coffees in, and say we've got our coffee table over here, we can just sample roast individual lots, and then we can taste them instead of having to do 15, 20 kilos at a time. Oh, no, well, as in 200 grams. Yeah, so, depending on how many roasts we're doing. So it could be anywhere to a kilo, but that's all based on making sure everybody in the shop can taste the coffee. We'll get sample roasts sent in months as well, before the actual coffees arrive at the shipping ports. So yeah, that way you have an idea of how those coffees are going to taste. That's everything, guys. Do we have any more questions? Yeah, I'll figure out the decaf question too. I'll look into that for you. But yeah, no, thanks so much, guys, for coming down. Feel free to come over to the bar as well and grab a coffee if